Dr. Pali Lehohla joins us now via Zoom for a little bit more. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Doro, thank you very much. I hope the lights don't go off through load shedding while we are here.
We pray. So, Ntate Lehohla, you were asked a very interesting question at the Black Management Forum conference today. Tell us about that question and what ran through your mind as you started to ponder on it.
Well, the question was, is South Africa going to have a reset? It was an interesting question in that it threw one's mind back in 1993 where a reset was set. The difference in 1993 was that the reset was etched in hope, and hope that victory is certain, 94 will happen. Despite the fact that the economic situations and meltdown were the same, they were filled with hope and we could win. At this moment in time, a reset is set in being desperately in need. We have been, betrayed, so to say. The hope that imbued in 1994 is replaced by disgruntlement because of failed policies. So that's the key difference. So our energy is sapped by this level of betrayal that has occurred. So when you think about a reset, therefore, it will happen, of course, naturally, because the changes are taking place regardless and independent of our will. But it would happen well if we had a Solomon, the wisdom of a Solomon. But there is no Solomon that will come from anywhere, nor will there be some wisdom that comes from there, at least from the current assessment that we have. So the key issue then is how do we manage and lead the reset? It can only be on the basis of good sound policy making. And sound policy making in terms of the United Nations Committee of Public Management, UNCPA, it's based on science policy. That is, sound policy making has to be science-driven. A science-driven process has to at least go through critical thinking, systems design, and design thinking, so that you know where you will be by time B. Our policies do not demonstrate that. And that's the biggest weakness that we have. So when the minister says we are doing A, B, C, D, he talks about the inputs. He then concludes that there might be an impact. But what magnitude of the impact will be, that is silent. It is silent in the Minister of Finance. It is silent in the explorations by the President. It's also silent by the two ministers who spoke today. Where it is articulated, like in terms of levels of unemployment and levels of growth and debt to GDP ratio, projected into the future, it is a very hopelessly, it creates a hopeless future. Where will South Africa be at 38% unemployment? Where will it be in 2030? It shows that there's lack of economic policy design. There's lack of a scenario building. Then out of the scenarios, looking at what policies could deliver what results, and then be intentional about the intentions. And that's where the work is lacking, being intentional about the intentions. And the intentions are about delivering on growth, reducing unemployment, and reducing poverty, including gender-based violence. The texture and architecture at the moment is inspiring those things. It is unsurprising, therefore, that National Treasury says unemployment will be at 38%, and growth will be 1.6%. Debt to GDP ratio will be 83% in another 4 years. And the parliament rises and applauds that speech and says a good speech. Now, a good speech that ushers more poverty. What kind of speech is that?
Yes, I mean, the way you're talking...
We really have to ask ourselves very difficult questions.
The way you're talking, I keep on thinking of the Chinese model where there is a country plan and it doesn't matter actually who's the head of state. They will change over time, but the country plan continues to build itself. And I wonder if we look at the South African scenario, we've had a few administrations and each one has promised a reset. They've promised a change. And when people critically look at the policies, they don't often find fault with the policies, but it does seem the doing has always been the challenge.
No, the policies in South Africa are exhortations. They are intentions, so there is a policy.
Yes.
But there is no intentionality around those. So if we say triple challenge is poverty, inequality, and unemployment, the policy will say, let's resolve unemployment, let's resolve. So there's the intention, but there's no intentionality. We are not intentional about the policies.
Describe
when we are intentional about the policies.
Describe what an intentionality action would be.
An intentional action will actually start with what are the scenarios, what are we seeing in South Africa, an analysis of that. So, what are the set of policies that in these scenarios, what are the policies that we have to adopt to resolve this? Which ones best fit resolving the problems we have?
Are they not doing that?
If we look at, pardon?
Are they not doing that?
No, where have you seen it? Have you seen a report that says so? If we look at the scenarios of the future we chose, or at least the memories of the future, or the Montflair scenarios. The Montflair scenarios were very clear around the policies. The future we chose, or the memories of the future, were not very clear on the policies. They were storylines. But there were correction on Montflair scenarios, and in those policies, we saw growth happening. The future we chose were storylines. The National Development Plan is one scenario that consists of storylines of the wish list. Now, when you think about the Indula Meti scenarios that we created in 2017, those scenarios actually show that there is a Gwara scenario, show that there is a Naila Walk scenario and there is Budwa scenario. When we look at a set of policies that are there in government currently, they are actually taking us down the path of Gwara. It is a set of policies that are now analyzed, quantified, and they match a Gwara scenario at West and then an Isibulwa scenario. There is a Naila Walk scenario, which could have been quantified and analyzed. And when that was done, it would actually suggest that would be on the RDP proper that we constituted in 1994. So the choice of policies in South Africa at the moment, as they stand, they are going to take us down the lane of Gwara at West and Isibulwa at best. But given where we are now, we are almost already in Gwara and we will never be in Naila Walk. The government intends one thing, but acts the other.
All right, so let me
ask... And that's what quantification of scenarios do.
All right, let's talk a little bit about then solutions. I just wonder, what's getting in the way of the intentionality? What are the blockages? Is it politics? What is it?
Well, in part is the ability to assemble economic policy through modeling, which is tools of foresight, which is science policy, because it suggests to you when you put these things together, you are likely to be there. And once you have done that, it says to you what are the actions that you have to take. So political will for us is something that we think is a magic wand. Political will is based on evidence. And the person who drives that evidence as a president should be aware of where he's going. So you need a competent public service that can model the future. And say, on the basis of this modeled future, this is how we will, with all madness, run towards. At the moment, the Treasury gives us 38% and 1.6% as a projection of the future. So we all have to be hands on deck to achieve that deplorable end. And we shouldn't regret when we get there, because that's what the model of Gwara Gwara says. And it means that the policy combination by the Treasury is a wrong combination, because it's taking us where we don't want it to go. Now, in the absence of sophisticated tools of modeling that do not only model the financials, but model the productive sector and the interventions by the human beings, because and not relying on the markets, is what we actually need, modeling the interventions by human beings, because development is a human activity rather than a market activity. So on the precursor of following a market-driven economy, we find ourselves trapped in that long-term unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Adalzadeh Asgar has written a fantastic document that describes why South Africa is trapped in this situation. And there is no turning back, including in the current policies of master plans and all these other things, of inputs. And those inputs are not going to get us anywhere. So to answer your question, you need competent people who can actually design scenarios. Out of those scenarios, choose the policies, then in the design of those policies, run the future with those policies and see which policies in their combination deliver what we desire, which is low unemployment, low poverty, and low inequality and high growth.
Ntate Lehohla, we're going to have to leave it there. Let's just hope that those with the ears that can hear will listen to what you've been saying and follow a different path for our citizens. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your insights with us this evening.
No, thank you very much.
All right, that's Tate Pali Lehohla, who you might remember as the former statistician general, but now the director of Economic Modelling Academy, talking about what is required to reset the South African economic scenario. And a lot of new kinds of thinking and doing is what he's saying is required.